ghosting y'all for 6 months was not my intention. This is not how I planned on the year to go. But, I think I deserve you guys a little explanation onto what happened, so that's what this video is going to be. If you don't want to watch this video, because it will be timestamped down below, I'm sure this is going to be a long video, I have a shorter TLDW version posted up here. You guys can go watch that instead. It's less than 5 minutes, quick, easy explanation. This is for all the details of everything that has happened and everything that I have been dealing with over the last six months, especially pertaining to my cat, because she has been the presiding factor over the last 6 months. And I'm gonna, at the very top, give a trigger warning for pet care and almost losing pets, anorexia in pets, fatty liver disease, feeding tubes, and vet talk. There's gonna be a lot of that in this because it has been a long 6 months. So, if that is triggering at all for you, please go watch the TLDW version. I don't go into any details there, but I want to talk about what happened because it has been insane over these last 6 months, and it's hard to believe that it's been 6 months. The first part of this is the fact that I initially planned to start a second YouTube channel, and I did. It has since been deleted because I don't have the energy to do 2 YouTube channels anymore. But I wanted to start fresh because as it stands, I know I have 500 subscribers, but only a handful, literally less than 5 people who are subscribed to me continuously watch my content. And I'm fairly positive I know who each and every one of those people are in my personal life. Friends, family, people who support me. That doesn't help a lot with viewers, numbers, all that analytic BS here on YouTube. So I wanted to start a new channel to pull in fresh subscribers because I can't purge my subscriber base. That's not really a thing that YouTube allows. So I started the channel, I posted a couple of reactions, I had a lot of really good ideas, I was working with a new therapist, we had a lot of thoughts on what I could do going forward, and then in February, everything fell apart. So it was like a week after the Super Bowl in February when I noticed that Leola was a little, I noticed that her fur, she has this time where when she's not doing very well, her fur is flat. And it's not as fluffy, it's a little bit more staticky. When she is sick, she gets like this. So I started noticing that. And then I realized that she was losing weight rapidly. And that's when I realized she wasn't eating or drinking, for that matter. She wasn't eating or drinking anything. So February, we end up on my baby's 10th birthday. She turned 10, and I had to rush her to the vet. So we took her to the local vet, and we determined that she was starting to develop jaundice, which is a sign of fatty liver disease. And that we don't know what's causing her to not eat because her teeth are fine, her gums are fine, she's not constipated, but she's not eating. And so we give her an appetite stimulant, we give her some vitamins, and at first it looks like, okay, that's kind of working. She ate a few bites of her kibble, she was doing kind of okay, and then she stopped again. So we took her back to the local vet, and we're like, okay, this stopped working, and they're like, okay, let's try a different appetite stimulant. She's still not eating, so let's try something else. And then the vet looked at us and said, if she continues to not eat, though, I will have to send you down to a specialist. Now, I want to real quick shout out VCA specialists in Ontario, California, because they have been a godsend through all of this, and they have they've been so helpful. They care about the pets, and they really genuinely want to help you no matter your financial situation, and I love them for that. Because we tried the second appetite stimulant and it didn't work, so we scheduled a visit with the VCA down in Ontario. Now, the hard part about this is the fact that because of where I live in the middle of the desert, Ontario is an hour 20, if traffic's good, an hour 30 to 2 hours away, if traffic is California traffic. If it's California-ing, then it's abysmal and it sucks. And Leola has not been in a car that long since I stuck her in the car back in Washington and drove 22 hours straight from Washington to California to move here. So she is little traumatized by cars. But honestly, she took it like a champ. We got her down to the specialist. They took a look at her and they said, yes, she definitely has fatty liver disease. So that means that her liver is eating her muscles and her fat to give her food, which is what is causing the jaundice that is appearing all over her. You could really, really see the jaundice after they shaved her stomach to do the ultrasound. It was very noticeable there. And they did an ultrasound. They said there are some anomalies that we are seeing, and we're going to do a couple of biopsies to look and make sure that there's nothing else wrong with her liver or her kidneys or anything. And then basically they gave us a different appetite stimulant, and we kind of assumed at this point, because we didn't know why she stopped eating. At this point, we had no idea what was going on. So the vet and us all kind of assumed that maybe she got a little anxious, she got scared by something because the Super Bowl was a big event and I wasn't home for the Super Bowl. She was home alone. I don't normally leave her home alone on super big nights like that where the apartment complex or the neighborhood behind us are potentially loud. So we think maybe she got spooked. It made her avoidant to food. So they sent me home with a packet on cat avoidant food behavior and how to fix it. Within a couple of days, though, of us, because I think we took her in on a Thursday or a Friday, and then that following Monday, Sunday night, she started acting really, really weird. And she wasn't moving a lot. She was even more lethargic than normal. And I was getting worried, and everyone told me just go to bed. We'll check on her in the morning, and we'll see how she is. So we all get up on Monday. I get up with them. Both Gus and my mom, who I live with, work 9-to-5 jobs. So I get up in the morning really early with them. And Leola's in the exact same spot that we left her that night, the exact same position. And I was so worried at that moment that she was just gone. I was in full panic mode. Thankfully, when I called her name, she turned her head to me. And I was the only one who was able to coax her out of where she was hiding at. But something was very wrong, and it was the fact that she hadn't ate. She still wasn't eating. So my mom called off work. We rushed her down to Ontario to see the emergency specialist at the VCA, and we had a feeding tube put in. We didn't have a choice at that point because she was not eating. And she was down to 7, almost 6 pounds at that point. And her average weight, because she is a Maine Coon, Norwegian Forest Cat, Bengal mix, her average weight is 12 pounds. And she was down to almost 6. She had lost close to half her body weight, if not more, if she weighed a little bit less than 12 pounds at the time this all started. So I was nervous because I started to study vet medicine a decade ago. Back when I was in high school, my dream was to be a vet and then a vet tech, and then I had to put my dog down, and I realized I couldn't do that. That putting animals down is a reality of working in the vet field, and I realized that I was not equipped for that. So it has been a decade since I have studied vet medicine, since I have looked into vet procedures, and thankfully, there have been a lot of advancements in the vet field over the last decade, because I remember being terrified of feeding tubes and the idea of doing that to an animal a decade ago. Now they have a much more humane way of doing it. They're very caring about it, and honestly, they have learned that it is honestly 10 times better to do a feeding tube than to force feed an animal. So in the long run, it was terrifying to have to put it in, but it was better for her. And that was what I was focused on, was that it was gonna help her. What this meant for me, though, is that starting when we put the feeding tube in, which I think was around my birthday in March, so early March, so it hasn't even been a full month yet of realizing all this is happening. With the feeding tube in now, I have to feed her 4 times a day. In the morning, I have to feed her and give her her meds through the tube, and then she has a lunch, evening, and a dinner feeding. I was feeding her constantly. It was my task. I had to get up early to make sure she fed. I had to take care of her to make sure she didn't get sick with the feeding tube. I had to keep an eye on her to make sure she adjusted to it well. And I was doing that continuously from March to about late May. That was my life. And while I'm doing this every day, feeding her 4 meals a day, I don't have the energy to cook. I don't have the energy to clean. I barely have the energy to exist outside of taking care of my cat at this point. Thankfully, my mom and Gus stepped up and they helped take over some of the projects in the apartment that needed done, like the cooking, the cleaning. They occasionally, Gus would feed Leola for me so I could take a nap because my sleep schedule is all fucked at this point. But I am 24/7 focused on Leola and watching her for changes so I can update the vet and kind of see where we're moving with it. And all the while doing this, still trying to get her to eat. I bought 7 different cat food brands, if not upwards of 10. Several different types of cat food. Hell, I even bought her baby food to try and get her to eat that. I even tried to give her real tuna, which is not good for cats, but I was like, listen, if you eat something on your own, I will take it at this point. And none of it worked. I went through every option in that packet I was given, and none of it was working. It was getting to the point where in May, I was having a really hard time, and I was worried that this might be my cat's life forever, and that's not sustainable for me, and I was worried I was going to have to put her down, because feeding her through a tube for the rest of her life is not fair to her. Because the vet was stumped, we were stumped, we couldn't figure out what was happening. The only good solace at this moment was the fact that with the feeding tube and with feeding her, I was able to get her up to a full calorie diet every day, and I was able to make sure that she was fed, and she was perking up, she was a little bit more active, she still was struggling, especially when it came to going to the bathroom. She was still having a problem with that, which has been an issue that we have had since I adopted her 9 years ago. The original vet assumed it was fiber issues, but we never quite figured out why she was bleeding when she went to the bathroom. That has been solved now, and I will get to that, but that's been an issue for a while, so we were all just struggling and trying to decide what to do next. I made the decision that if we do not figure this out, if we get to the end of this year and she is still on a feeding tube by December, I will put her down. It is the last thing I want to do because she is my first cat that is completely mine, and it would have destroyed me. It was destroying me just thinking about it. And then fighting with my family who was trying to tell me I was being rash, and I'm like, we're trying everything. Even the vet is confused. And so finally we get to May and we go in to see the vet again, and we're like, yeah, no, it's been another month and she is still eating the diet well. She is perked up, she is a little bit more playful, but she still will not eat on her own. And at that point, the vet is like, okay, it has now been almost 6 months. This is not working, something else is wrong. And she double checked her gums and her teeth, and she's like, I looked her over and everything looks fine. So we have, I think there were 3 possibilities, and we're gonna tackle them all at once, is what she said. And this is why I love the VCA. They knew that doing the procedures to diagnose these 3 possibilities might not give us answers and would be invasive for Leola and super expensive for us. So instead, she said, in case there is a cancer in the intestines that is like a minor cancer that's easily treatable, we'll start giving her steroids. In case she has a B12 deficiency in her intestines, which is making digestion hard, I want you to start giving her B12 alongside those steroids. And on the off chance that it might be IBS, irritable bowel syndrome in cats, which is a thing, she said that does happen, and more often than not, chicken is the reason. Some cats cannot digest chicken and it just messes up their system. And almost every cat food you see, especially on the lower price end, is made with chicken. So she said, we're going to switch you over to a new blend instead of blending up at this point, I'm blending up pates of food with water to put in her syringe every week. So I'm not kidding when I say 24/7 care for my cat. So she said, we're going to find you a brand that is rabbit-based and corn-free, soy-free, grain-free, chicken-free, like anything that could possibly be irritating her stomach. We're going to find a brand that doesn't have it, and is rabbit based, and we're gonna blend that up and put that into her feeding tube instead. Y'all, I'm not kidding. Less than a week on that new diet, giving her that as her calories for the day instead of the chicken-based food. I haven't seen my cat like that, this active, this happy, since I first adopted her. Since those first like 4 or 5 years with her, it was like a flip switch. Suddenly, I wasn't looking at my 10-year-old cat, I was looking at my 5-year-old cat, who was still active and playful and tormenting me every day. And it was wild to me that that was the issue this whole time, was the food that I was feeding her, because I didn't know that was a thing in cats. I had no idea that cats could, like, I knew cats could be allergic to some things, but I didn't think cats could be sensitive to food to the point where they would rather choose to starve than to eat the food. And she is eating on her own now. She almost ripped out the feeding tube. She basically, when we took her in, literally a week before her appointment to get it removed, the emergency vet looked at me and said, yeah, no, she popped all the stitches and she did all the work for us. We just took off her collar and the tube came out. Like, as soon as she started eating on her own, she wanted that tube out. But she's eating on her own, she's going to the bathroom more regularly, more normally, and she is so much more playful and energetic and cuddly again. She is so different. And it is amazing to see, and I'm happy that even though it took 6 months, we got the answer. And I think I know what triggered it, because I have fed her Iams her whole life. Except for when the very first vet told us to put her on a fiber diet that they prescribed me, and then COVID hit, and suddenly vets were booked out 6 months in advance, and I could not re-up that prescription, I switched her back to Iams. So she has been eating the Iams salmon food. I mostly give her the fish. That is kind of what I've always done. I've always given her the Iams salmon blend. But in December, I needed to switch to a slightly cheaper brand of food because it was getting expensive now that we have the little one. Now that Yenna's in the picture, we needed to find a way to make cat food more affordable. So I switched to, I think it was Kirkland's Costco brand, which is chicken-based, and the ingredients, the chicken in that, in the corn and the wheat and everything, is higher up in the ingredient list than in the Iams. And that's when everything went downhill. So I think switching up her food triggered even more IBS, which triggered her to just not want to eat because all food was irritating her. And we bought the dry food version of the rabbit food on the off chance that it worked, because we were at PetSmart a couple of days later and we were like, let's get this just in case. And as soon as she smelled it, she started trying to eat it. I actually had to give her a specific amount to eat because she was so happy to be eating and feeling good again that she made herself sick. Little gross, but she would eat the food too fast, spit it back up because it hadn't gotten very far down her throat, and then she was like, this is fine, and then would keep eating it. And I'm like, ma'am, that's disgusting, but I'm happy you're eating, so at this point, I'll take anything. I will take anything at this point. 6 months. And by June, the feeding tube was out. I was nervous, and so was the vet, because she ripped the feeding tube out early. Like I said, she was a little pushy. But she kept eating, and the only thing that was the biggest concern was when they pull out the feeding tube, the hole that the feeding tube went into in their neck, they leave open, especially hers, because it was really raw around the edge where she had ripped out her stitches. So they were worried about irritating it more with stitches, and Yenna occasionally likes to climb on her and bite her neck because we don't even know at this point. We don't understand Yenna. He's our sweet baby boy, but we don't understand. So we were a little nervous, but it healed very nicely. Y'all, when I was able to put her collar back on her, I literally cried. Being able to put her collar back on and be able to be like, look, you don't have a tube in your neck is healed, I don't have to constantly watch where you're sleeping. I was bawling my eyes out. Hell, the night we brought her back from the vet, and even with, We got like a flower cone to put on her that was more malleable and allowed her to sleep a little bit easier. I'll throw up some pictures for you guys of that because she was so cute. Seeing her flop over onto the side that the tube was protruding out of, and seeing that content look on her face as she realized she could sleep on that side again, I was a mess for most of June. Most of June through July, I was a mess watching her slowly heal and recover and just become herself again. And now she is eating regularly. I'm back to free feeding her. She eats when she's hungry. And it's just, I am so happy to know what I need to do to keep her healthy, because it is wild to me. Growing up, I was always taught, and the way I watch my cats is that you are lucky if your cat makes it to 12. Even luckier, hell, if they make it to 10. That is kind of the way I was raised to believe, is that you're lucky if they make it to 10. It's amazing if they make it to 12. And part of that is because I was raised in a household that had indoor-outdoor cats. So you also had to add in all the outdoor factors, cars, people, animals, things that could cut their life short. But with the advancements in pet care, vet medicine, you are seeing a lot more cats closer to 20, 22 even. So now, knowing that Leola is well taken care of, she has the proper food, I am doing great by her, and she is an indoor cat now because I made that switch a few years ago to make her indoor, especially after she got ear mites for the second time. I was like, nope, we ain't doing this, Leola. You're inside forever now. She's probably got another 5-10 years in her. And I am very excited for that because that is my baby. And I was getting to the point where I was resigned to the fact that I'd have to put her down, but I am so happy that I do not. And that she is healing. Her fur still growing back. That's the one last part we're waiting on, especially around her neck where the collar was. The fur is definitely taking a little bit longer to come back because there was a lot of trauma around the feeding tube site. But she's happy and she's healthy. And the other wild thing about this is my cat, for most of her life, I don't think she was like this as a kitten. It definitely developed later. She has a chewing problem. Chews on cords, she chews on strings, she chews her toys to the point where they go from being like fluffy little balls to flat pieces. Hell, she chewed the face off one of the mice toys that we have. Like, she always was chewing on things. And at one point, Gus was like, is there pica, but in cats? Like, is she looking for nutrition somewhere else? And I'm like, I've never heard of pica in cats, but I think that's what it was. I think Gus was onto something, because since giving her the B12 vitamins every day, and which I'll probably be doing that for the rest of her life, I will probably have to give her her B12 supplements, but small price to pay for my cat's happiness. That's all I gotta say. But since the B12 and the rabbit food, she has stopped chewing. She doesn't chew on the doorway strings anymore. She doesn't chew on furniture. She plays with her pom-poms instead of chewing on them. My phone cord hasn't been touched in months, which is wild to me because I have gone through so many phone cords over the years because she just chewed on them relentlessly. And now she's like, she has that nutritional balance that I guess she's been looking for. Things that I've never known and I've never noticed. And now I'm growing and learning as a pet owner, and when the day comes when Leola does finally pass away from old age, and I do eventually get another cat, I have so much more knowledge now to take care of them. Hell, even Yenna, our little baby boy, God, he's 3 years, almost 4 now, I think. I've got so much more knowledge now that I'm applying to him that's going to give him an even longer lifespan. And this was a shitty experience. But it was a learning experience, and it forced me to confront a lot of problematic ideals that my family have around pets, because I've grown up in a family who swears up and down that they'd do anything for their pet, that the pets are the lifeblood of the family and they do anything. But giving a pet basic like intense care has always been a struggle. My family doesn't quite believe in just like animals being picky. They assume cats will eat anything. They assume that they will take care of themselves, that they are self-sufficient. That's not the case. Me and my brother are both unlearning a lot of stuff, because while I've been dealing with Leola, him and his girlfriend just got a pair of kittens, and one of them has asthma, which they now have to treat him for. So, like, they're relearning a lot of stuff with their cats as well, and we're all kind of in this process of healing the way our family looked at pets and treated pets. Like, we didn't treat them bad, but we definitely did not treat them great, is the issue that we are coming to. And that's kind of like the theme of what I've been dealing with everything, is just unlearning family habits and learning my habits and things about me and parts of my life. And it has been such, like, because I was forced to face the existential dread of losing one of the most precious things in my life, it forced a lot of mental health issues and a lot of mental health struggles over this last 6 months. I've had many an existential crisis over these last 6 months. I have had a lot of time to think. I've had a lot to think about. And one of the big things, and I mentioned this in the TLDW version, but one of the big things was that it cost us well over $5,000 for Leola. Part of that came from my brother's savings. He sent us over the money so me and Gus could get Leola to the vet. Hell, he even sent us gas money at one point. And another part of that is credit. We now have a pet credit card, like a pet insurance credit card. It's maxed out, obviously, because Leola, but it cost us a lot. So finances have been tight. And this has been a constant back and forth struggle between me, Gus, and Mom, because they want to support me doing whatever I want to do and following my creative dreams and my passions. But I struggle because I run the finances of the household. I'm the one who calculates how much we have for rent, how much we have for groceries. I know where we stand finance-wise, and it is hard to watch and know that if I were to just buckle down and get a 9-to-5 job and deal with the autism and the ADHD and just burn myself out, we'd be financially stable. And that was a really hard thing to deal with, because I know if I sacrifice every part of me that makes me me, I could make us financially stable and we'd be fine. But I'd be sacrificing myself, because I am a passionate, creative individual who has a lot of ideas and a lot of plans for what I want to do and where I want to go. I just have not had the energy or the drive to do them, because I've always been dealing with one crisis after another. And coming out of crisis mode over these last couple of years has been hard, because I've been in a fairly stable place, but everything with Leola sent me back into crisis mode, obviously. And coming out of it this time, I'm having a very different outlook on things. I want to focus more on my passions and my creativity. I want to follow these whims of mine because I have the space to do it. I might not have the finances to do it as quickly as I'd like to, because sadly, nothing is cheap. Even if I wanted to publish a song, that costs money. If I want to publish my next book, that's going to cost me money. Running a YouTube channel is even costly in the fact that you don't make money from it. You have to do everything out of the goodness of your own heart. It is so hard. Like, you need money to pursue things now, or a support system. And right now, Gus and my brother are my biggest support systems. They are the ones who are helping me out the most. Well, Gus, my brother, and my brother's girlfriend. The three of them are my biggest support systems, financially. And then I also have support systems emotionally. I have so much more support now than I did even 5 years ago when I moved to California. There are a lot more people who are backing me, who are here to protect me, and here to catch me if I fail. And realizing that, especially because, like, my international friends, Ashley and Nina, they literally made me cry. They were literally offering, like, hey, what can we do to help you? Do you need a space to talk? Do you need to vent in the group chat? What if we paid to get you like an animal behaviorist to come and look at your cat and figure out what's going on? Like, they were so willing to do anything. And they don't even live in the same country as me. And just all this support that came flowing in really solidified in my brain that I have those systems that I have been craving, and now I can build on them. And that involves starting this YouTube channel back up again. That involves working on my next book, looking back into making music, working on artwork, and just doing anything and everything that I feel called to do, which is terrifying. Because being perceived is still something I am working on. I am healing through posting on YouTube, through opening myself up like this. I have done this previously. There's a lot of healing in, like, y'all probably don't see it, but if you go back and watch a lot of my DPR reactions over the years, I can see my healing journey through those videos. Those in particular, those reactions, those album unboxings, talking about DPR, that has been healing for me. And that has changed so much of how I interact with people online now. And so there have been good things to my journeys, even though my journeys have been up, down, twisting turns, backtracks a lot, especially here on YouTube. Like, it has been hard, but there has been a lot of growth, and I want to expand on that and keep going. So it has been a long 6 months, and I have had to deal with a lot between Leola, my own mental health. Oh, and like, side thing, our apartment was infested with ants for a good few months there, and I am terrified of ants. I was shoved into an anthill as a kid. They scare me now. I am petrified. So trying to stand in the kitchen and make your cat's food to put in her feeding tube while there are ants crawling around your feet? Fucking no. Fucking terrifying. Thankfully, that crisis has also moved to the wayside. So much has happened, and so much has happened just in my head even. And now I want to push forward and do the things that I want to do, and I'm gonna do it even though I'm terrified, even though I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if any of this stuff's gonna work. I'm gonna do it anyways. And that's the big takeaway from everything that has happened, is that I have a support system and I can still do things scared. Because every time I had to take Leola to the vet and I did not know what was going to happen next, I was terrified, but I did it anyways. And that's going to be, like, for a while there, I had a mantra, and I think I'm going to bring it back. Not the best mantra, but basically it was, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a panic attack, but I'm going to do it. That was back at, like, the height of my anxiety before I got started on my medications and everything. Panic attacks still there, but not as frequently. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna panic and I'm gonna be scared, but I'm gonna do it. And that's my mantra going forward. I am just happy to be chill and to not have to constantly be in fear of losing my cat. So I don't know what the next few months of the year are going to hold for us. I don't know what I'm going to do posting-wise. I'm still working on branding and everything right now. That's actually my plan, to tackle that after I finish recording this today. So more will come soon, but for now, thank you for listening to this rambling rant. I'm expecting this to be an hour long. My cousin hasn't knocked on the door yet. He should be coming over for lunch soon, but he's not here quite yet. So obviously I haven't quite hit the hour mark, so I think I'm doing okay. For those of you who did watch this all the way through, thank you. Like the video, comment any of your pet stories, because I love hearing success stories for pets, or if you want to talk about a pet that's passed on, I would love to do that. I wanted to become a vet because animals mean the world to me. Animals are such an important part of who I am as a person. So if y'all want to talk about your pets as well, please feel free to. And I'm going to definitely try to share more of Leola on social media now that she is healthy and active. And God, this woman will, this child of mine will sit in front of me on the couch and stare at me until I get up, and then she'll lead me to where the laser pointer is, and that's how she tells me she wants to play now. So she's active and she's healthy. It is also almost like 3 p.m. and I was supposed to give her meds at noon, but she is in my mom's bedroom, in that far back bedroom underneath her bed. So I'm hoping when my cousin comes over that she'll pop out and be like, ooh, person, I should be safe, and then I can give her her fucking meds. That's the only issue, is giving her her meds now, because she knows I need to give her her meds when I get out of bed, and she hides. She is learning. Kind of cheap, honestly, but I love her anyways. Like I said, thank you guys for watching this. I just needed, I think, a space to talk about and process everything that has happened. I am currently in between therapists, so I haven't had a therapist for these last couple of months, which has definitely been rough. But being able to talk here and just express what I'm going through helps so much. And that's the other reason I want to get back to doing this and just talking to you guys. Even if not a lot of people watch, talking about it helps. And I'm gonna keep doing that. I like talking. I'm gonna keep talking. Stay tuned, though, for whatever is to come next on the channel. I know I'm going to be doing more reactions. I know Keybum is coming out with an album, so I'm probably going to do a reaction for that as my first foray back into this, because, God, I can talk about Keybum's creative vision forever, so expect that soon. And, yeah, we'll see what happens with this channel, but thank you guys, as always, for being here and for sticking with me through this crazy-ass journey.